It's a common story we hear, isn't it? Especially about nations rich in natural resources, often in Africa. The narrative isn't one of thriving prosperity, but, well, more often of persistent struggle. It almost feels like a predetermined, unavoidable fate, this idea often termed the resource curse.
hmm It's a powerful narrative.
Yeah, it paints a rather grim picture where abundant natural wealth somehow, counterintuitively, leads to economic stagnation, political instability, maybe even social inequality. But what if a nation actively chose to write a different story? What if it looked at these very real pitfalls and said, okay, we're going to try and defy that?
It's a crucial question. Is it really a curse, or is it about choices?
Exactly, and that's precisely our mission today. We're taking a deep dive into a country that, despite its resource wealth, has made very deliberate choices to challenge this curse. Our analysis of the provided materials offers a really nuanced perspective, actually, on how one particular nation has approached its development. It steps well beyond those simplistic, often pessimistic
It
narratives.
definitely moves beyond the headlines.
Right. We're going to uncover how they've managed to transform potential challenges into genuine progress, all by focusing on a holistic, people-centered strategy.
hmm
It's a fascinating look at how, deeply thought out national choices can genuinely alter a country's trajectory.
It really highlights that agency, doesn't it?
It does. So, to truly understand this, we first need to unpack the very concept of the resource curse itself. What does that grim picture really entail? It's a narrative that unfortunately has become quite prevalent in development discussions, particularly when we talk about African nations.
Very much so.
The source materials we're looking at highlight a whole range of interconnected factors contributing to these developmental challenges across the continent. We're talking historical legacies like colonialism, political instability, ethnic and religious divisions,
Yeah, weak institutions.
weak institutions, rampant corruption, inadequate infrastructure, mismanaged economies, and even, harmful foreign interference. It's a really complex web of issues.
It absolutely is. And what's truly striking here, I think, is the persistent misconception, the sort of magic pill idea, that natural resources alone can drive national growth.
Right, just dig it up and you're rich.
Exactly. But the insights from our sources make it abundantly clear. While resources can indeed provide a foundational element, they can just as easily lead to stagnation or even regression. We've unfortunately witnessed that in many resource-rich nations globally.
hmm
This really puts into perspective why decades of external advice and international aid have often, well, failed to bring about the promised progress. It's not just about what a country possesses underground,
No.
but what it does with it, and more crucially, how that fits into a much broader, carefully constructed national vision.
But this story takes a fascinating turn. Our source material describes a country that, right from its independence, adopted a remarkably distinct approach.
Yes, a conscious deviation.
Instead of simply leaning on its natural resource endowments, it implemented a holistic, multifaceted strategy from day one. They were keenly aware of the dangers that come with mismanaged resource wealth, having learned, apparently, from the historical missteps of other resource-endowed nations.
Learning from others' experiences, yeah.
It was a very conscious decision to chart a fundamentally different course. So, how did they manage to deviate from that typical script?
Indeed, their development philosophy is quite distinctive. As articulated by their late ambassador Araya Desta at the UN back in 2013, a core principle established early on was that all mineral resources are considered public property.
Okay, public property.
Yes, and the emphasis is on conserving and developing these for all generations present and future, not just for immediate extraction or short-term gains.
That's a long-term view.
Very. Instead, there's a profound emphasis on people, investing heavily in human capital and youth, viewing them as the most important resource and greatest asset.
People as the real resource.
Precisely. This means natural resources are seen as just one component within a much larger interconnected development agenda. They're far from being treated as some kind of magic pill.
So not the silver bullet.
Not at all.
Hmm.
Their strategic priorities are incredibly broad and integrated, from rebuilding and constructing vital infrastructure and enhancing agricultural productivity to promoting private investment and exports. And crucially, there's significant investment in health and education, strong environmental protection initiatives, and a deep commitment to grassroots community mobilization. It's a truly comprehensive blueprint.
Wow, that's a lot more than just mining.
Absolutely. Their Director General of the Department of Mines, Elam Kabareb, he reinforces this cautious and pragmatic stance. He underscored that the mining sector must be developed slowly and carefully, specifically to prevent the resource curse.
Slowly and carefully. Interesting.
So, in essence, it's about seeing resources as a practical tool within a much broader, integrated national plan rather than the sole engine of development.
Okay. And despite facing some significant headwinds, the source mentions the lasting effects of conflict, extensive infrastructural damage, and what it calls unlawful unilateral sanctions. This nation has achieved measurable progress.
That context is important.
Yes. The information we reviewed points to their achievement of key United Nations Millennium Development Goals, the MDGs, particularly those related to health.
Which is often a key indicator.
Exactly. And their ongoing progress under the Sustainable Development Goals, the SDGs framework, which are, the UN's current global blueprint for peace and prosperity. That's quite a remarkable feat when you consider the challenges.
It really is. And this raises an important question, doesn't it?
Yeah.
What foundational elements do external observers often miss when they're assessing development? And how absolutely critical are factors like stability and minimal corruption?
The things you maybe can't easily quantify.
Right. Our sources highlight that this nation enjoys relative peace and stability, notably low crime rates, and minimal corruption. These are factors often overlooked, but are absolutely fundamental to sustained development success.
They build the foundation.
Exactly. When natural resources are integrated into such a broad development agenda, then they can genuinely contribute. They can generate foreign capital, bolster infrastructure projects, support national investments in social services, human development. It's about a synergy, not just simple extraction.
Right, it feeds back into the whole system.
Precisely.
Now, globally, there are very valid and widespread concerns about resource mismanagement and corruption in many developing contexts. It's a pervasive problem. It undermines progress in so many places.
It's a huge challenge, yes.
But our source material makes a rather striking claim about this nation's approach to corruption, presenting it as a distinct outlier. How do they tackle this pervasive issue? What does the source say?
Well, what's quite fascinating here is how the source directly confronts this major global concern. It does so with concrete third-party attestations and what seems to be a robust legal framework.
Okay, so not just internal claims.
No. For instance, during a visit several years ago, the head of the African Development Bank Group apparently remarked, "I marvel at some of the things I see here." And he cited a UN official who claimed, quote, "In Eritrea, corruption is 0%.
0%. That's a bold claim.
It's an astonishing claim, almost unbelievable given what we typically hear. Right?
Yeah.
And Christine Umutoni, a former UNDP country representative, she even stated to the BBC, "We've seen value for money and accountability. You invest a little and you get a lot."
For money.
And she further added in an interview that every dollar in this country has value. You will not see any of those things, meaning aid or resources sold in markets or diverted in any way.
Wow.
Similarly, another former UNDP representative, Susan Amando Ngongi, said that this nation have one of the best audited functions on the continent.
Best audited. Okay, so there's oversight.
Seems so. And it's not just UN officials either. The source mentions foreign business executives, including those from Western countries, have also testified to the absence of corruption. They reported no known or direct experience of corruption and noted that any such behavior would result in immediate contract termination.
Strict enforcement, that.
Apparently. The institutional framework supporting this also seems quite compelling. The country has signed or acceded to over 120 international legal instruments, many of which are woven directly into its own civil and penal codes.
So it's embedded legally.
Exactly. Making accountability and good governance a core, legally enforceable part of their system. They established a special court back in 1996, specifically to investigate corruption and misuse of public resources. And they've even updated their anti-money laundering proclamations, AML, designed to prevent illicit financial flows in 2014 and again in 2018.
So it looks like a systematic effort?
Yes, it suggests this isn't just rhetoric, it's backed by a system, and these external observations seem to corroborate it to some extent.
Okay. Looking ahead, though, even with excellent management, relying heavily on primary commodities like minerals always carries inherent risks. Market volatility, for one.
Absolutely. Boom and bust cycles.
Right. So the essential need for economic diversification for long-term resilient growth seems paramount. The source specifically highlights investment in manufacturing as a crucial pathway to modernization and sustainable economic development. How does that connect to everything else we've discussed?
Well, this really puts it into a wider context, I think.
Mhm.
The nation's significant investments in education and human capital development, remember, the people as the main resource.
Yes.
Those are absolutely key to enabling this economic transition. By cultivating a skilled workforce, they're preparing their people to participate more actively in global value chains, in more advanced industries, moving beyond mere resource extraction.
So the human investment pays off down the line for diversification.
That seems to be the strategy. And this is where the international community also plays a crucial role. Constructive engagement, supporting a nation's sovereign right to development, and, as the source mentions, the removal of illegal, unilateral sanctions and coercive measures are seen as essential.
External factors matter too.
Immensely. Ultimately, the picture painted is of a country working to harness its resources as a catalyst, not a crutch, for comprehensive national transformation.
A catalyst, not a crutch. I like that framing. So to summarize our deep dive today, this nation seems to offer a truly compelling counter-narrative to the typical resource curse story.
It certainly presents a different case study.
Yeah. By prioritizing a holistic, people-centered development strategy and maintaining what appear to be strict anti-corruption measures, they illustrate how careful, strategic, and people-focused management can potentially transform those pitfalls into genuine, tangible progress.
It shows possibilities, perhaps.
Right. And this raises an important question for you, our listener. What does this all mean for other nations grappling with resource wealth? Does this approach suggest that the resource curse is less about the resources themselves and far more about the choices a nation makes? Choices regarding its human capital, its institutions, its long-term vision.
It certainly makes you think, doesn't it? What elements of this strategy might be adaptable? Or what broader lessons can we draw about development paradigms that go beyond just, digging stuff out of the ground?
Definitely food for thought.